Okay, so folks, we're going to get started. It looks like in about 4 minutes or so. We start at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So hang tight. We'll be right with you. All right, Jeannie, can you hear me okay? Let's just do a quick test before we get going here and get anybody here. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Just let me know in the chat area that you could hear me. All right, testing. Testing. Quick audio check here. Can you hear me? Testing. Okay, so audio is okay. Excellent. All right. We'll get started here in a couple minutes then. All right, well, welcome everybody to this week's Stock Analysis Friday. Today, of course, is May 27th, and a great wish for everybody for a great Memorial Day weekend. Nice 3-day weekend. Woohoo, right? All right, so hope everybody's doing good. All right, so now when you give me your stocks, make sure you type them in caps, okay? That makes it easier for me to see. And we'll get started here, and a few administrational items to go through, of course. So let's go ahead and get those out of the way. And first thing, of course, I have to let you know that there are risks involved in trading, both short-term and also long-term, and as well investing. I think you can't really get out of that risk parameter, because in the markets we deal basically in a realm of probabilities, not certainties. So there's always risk present. So you got to be smart about it. You got to use money you can afford to risk, for one thing. And then the next thing is, every time you take a trade, please calculate your trade size, or also known as position size, and also calculate, know how much risk you're taking on each and every trade. And if you need help with that, I've got a book just for you in just a minute that I'll talk to you about. Also, too, make sure that any of the concepts or even some of the stock picks we look at today, make sure that you run those by your financial advisor or whoever manages your money, to be sure that they're suitable for you, because we don't know your personal situation. They do. So don't go throwing any money at anything until you talk to them to make sure this kind of short-term trading is for you, because we are technically momentum traders. So that's important. All right, now here's our book on the far right, and Gene wants me to show you this book on the cam as well. Here it is. I don't know if you can see it. Sometimes they come out pretty good, sometimes they don't. All right, so there's the book. It's called A Money Management for Traders. It's the green colored book on the far right-hand side of this slide. And it's a brand new book, and it deals with money management and the ability for you to take the concepts in that book and implement them right away. So this is kind of a Cliff Notes book of my book on the far left, which is the white colored book called The Trader's Money Management System, which is also an excellent book, but it is a very in-depth book on money management. So the green colored book gives you kind of like the Cliff Notes of that book, gives you what you need to know to get started. It's inexpensive. It's available in a variety of different formats like Kindle and all that kind of good stuff. So check that out. We'll put a link up if you're watching the recording so you can access that as well. I'm sure Gene will put a link up somewhere in this thing today, and you can check that out. Then I have other books on different forms of technical analysis, and The Art of Trading, of course, is our premier software that we have, which leads us to our software page. So we've been doing this really since about 1998 in terms of running a retail type business where we share our software ideas to try to help traders. I'd been trading before that, but really there was not much internet exposure before that. So really about 1998, we got more public about it. So we've got a variety of software tools, and these software tools are basically ones that I developed over time. And I feel that they're best software tools on the market today. You're going to see me use them today on different time frames and so forth, which is kind of fun. But we have software that covers charting software. We have scanners, and we have risk control software, because we're very big in risk control. You really can't be successful in this business, folks, if you're not using the right tools. And that includes also the tools for risk control. So that's really important, and keep that in mind. And then finally, please like, subscribe, and share this channel. Share it with your friends. The more people we get to come here today, the more opportunities we can uncover. So it's kind of dependent on people coming so we can share our ideas. Okay, I'm going to share a couple of mine, and I hope they will share a couple of theirs as well. All right, so let me get out of this mode here and dive into the stocks here. All right, so when you're ready, go ahead and start typing in. There's a couple things I want to cover before we get there. I'm going to take a look at the overall Dow Jones market for everybody here today. Quick synopsis of what you're looking at here. I use NinjaTrader right now, and notice that I've got 3 time frames as my layout. So I've got the 60-minute time frame over here on the far left, and this is basically giving me a glimpse at the short-term trend. And then in the middle, I have my daily chart, which is kind of common. Most people use this chart. This is my intermediate look at the market, and I use this as my primary for position trading. And then on the far right, I have my weekly chart, which is the long-term glimpse at the market I'm analyzing. Now, notice that all 3 charts are of the same market. So whenever you give me a stock symbol, when I look them up in here, I'm going to have the same stock symbol on all 3 charts, so you can take a look at the different aspects of that particular stock. Now, at the top here on this up here, This is all our scanners going to work. Okay, so we have all those scanners that are software tools as well. But we're going to stay pretty much focused, excuse me, today on the charts. So with that information in mind, let me take a look at the Dow for everybody, because everybody's having a question about that. So the overall markets have been down the entire year of 2022. So where is it going now? What's going to happen next? Are we done with the correction? Are we going to bounce up and make another high? Or is this the beginning of something bigger to the downside? Let's take a look. Overall, we feel that the market is going to sell off in a big way. The question is when? All right. Are we going to make one more high and then have it go down? Or are we done? And are we on our way down? And it's going to get worse and worse. So overall, if we look at the weekly chart over here, notice I've got a target zone between these two blue lines where we think this is eventually going to head. Now, a couple things have to happen before it really starts. We can really confirm that forecast. If we look at the daily chart here, notice we got a red line. Do you see this red line right here? The markets almost went below it, but did not quite. Instead, it bounced up. So now it's at a fib inflection point, which is this little area in here. And I think next week it's going to be very telling what happens with the market. We anticipated it getting up here, but now it's got to make a decision. Is it going to follow through and go higher, or is it going to follow through and go lower? If it goes lower and goes below this red colored line here, then the chances are we are in a major sell-off. And if that's the case, then we'll probably go lower than the COVID low back in the year 2020, which is quite low. All right, so watch those levels. And if this kind of forecast interests you, we have a variety of subscription services where we do nothing but look at the markets each and every week to keep you in the know. So that's something you may be interested in. All right, the next thing I want to take a look at is silver, because a lot of people kind of are saying, well, what's going on with silver? You know, it's sold off. Now it's bouncing back. What do you think, Ben's, going to happen? Well, on silver here, it did come back down. And I don't think it's quite done coming down. And the reason I say that, if I look on the daily chart here, you can see where it's been quite a seesaw. And then actually broke down and made a new low, see, recently. So this indicator here, which is called the PTF, this is one of our indicators. And this has a 75% accuracy, which is actually very good for the markets. Because it's red, it's indicating that this low in the lowest area of the red is not the final low, that there's a 75% possibility after a retracement that we're going to head back down and go lower. So I don't think silver is done based on that one indicator right now. So I would hang tight. Now, if things change, if the indicator changes to a green, then that's different. But so far it hasn't. Also, too, notice we have a red pyramid here that's still active with a stop up here for a short trade. And then notice here we have the owl, which is this indicator right here. And you know, all these little names like owl, PTF, they stand for something. They're like acronyms. So the owl stands for the optimum wave locator. The PTF stands for the precision trend filter. And so when that's red, the momentum is negative still. So it still has a little ways to go before we can say a bottom's in, I think. So I would hang tight with silver. If you're in silver, if you look at the weekly chart, we've got a more significant bottom sitting down in here. All right, but you know, that's around 12 bucks. So you got to wait for this thing to bottom again and then maybe try it again to the upside. All right, the next one is gold. So let me type that in here. And gold's another popular one that people like to look at. Give that a second to load, and I think we're in good shape there. So on gold here, all right, it had a nice move up over the last couple of years. And now it's kind of waffling a little bit. But again, I want to bring your attention to the fact that we have a green PTF and a green PTF over here. That's that precision trend filter. So there is a 75% probability gold should return and make a new high and go above here. The problem is right now is we still have negative momentum. And so we're kind of waiting for this to bottom. We may be close. Okay, it could spring up from here and this could turn green. So we're kind of, I think, close to maybe a long position on gold at some point. Okay, could be as early as maybe 2 weeks or so. So getting there. And then finally, the one I wanted to look at here was crypto. All right, we always look at the ETFs for that. GBTC is one that's popular. So on crypto here, any long positions basically were stopped out, because the reason I say that is because we took out the low here, all right, a couple weeks ago. So out, all right. We also have a red PTF here on the 60-minute chart. So it looks like short term, we could even go lower. We do have a green PTF here on the long term. So after this bottoming is done, if that PTF stays green, then we may have another opportunity for a bullish trade. But it's also very close to going red. So if it goes below this little line here, I don't know if you can see that in the PTF itself, then that's going to turn red. And then if that's the case, no more long positions. All right. So we're flat on this. We're out. We're waiting, and we'll see what happens with that. All right. Let me get to see what we got cooking here. All right. So Stuart, let's see. Is that a C you're showing me? A C, and you have two stocks. I see CALLY. A little confused on that. So I think maybe Citibank is one you want to look at. I'll put that in, and then it's ALLY. If you're going to give me two, put a comma or something in between, just so you know I kind of know. All right, Citibank. Let's take a look at the big C here. All right, so Citibank has been coming down actually for quite a while, and notice that 2022, no different than the down. It's not been up. Okay, it's been down. You have a green PTF, interestingly enough, on the weekly chart on this. So that's kind of interesting. But you also have a lot of long-term negative momentum. It's getting better, but it's still fairly bearish on the momentum. This is starting to turn around. This is starting to turn around. So if you wanted to take a long trade and get in early, you probably could do that now because the short-term charts are in your favor. The only thing I would recommend is, because this is so bearish here, calculate your trade size or position size and then take it half and then go half. And the reason I say that is because when you go against the long-term momentum, it's a little bit more of a riskier trade, Stuart. So lower your trade size. But I don't see any reason not to take this trade to the long side at this point. Okay, you're getting in early. I'd put my stop at the very bottom, okay, right down here. So not too far away for a long-term trade. And then, you know, if you get stopped out, then it wasn't the bottom. But if it is the bottom, you'll do very well on that trade. So kind of cool. All right, next one is Ally Bank, right? Okay, you are banking today. All right, let's see what we got here on ALLY. All right, kind of a similar situation, but not quite as bullish, I don't think, as Citibank, simply because we still have a red owl on the daily chart, which is the one in the center. We do have a green PTF. Problem is on the 60-minute, the problem is you're pretty close to it already, because this is the highest high in the area. And look, that's what, 43.5, and we're already at 42.25. So a little late to use that as a target zone. This is good. We've got a new pyramid down here. I would say wait for this to turn green. Again, you're going to have to be a little careful on this one because you still have a red owl. You know, when you take a look at a weekly chart, great analogy for this. Think of a carrier strike group, okay? Think of an aircraft carrier and all the destroyers around it. The destroyers can move real quick. Those represent your short-term charts. The aircraft carriers, like the weekly chart, it takes a while for that baby to turn. And so in a case like this, the smaller time frames can get you in earlier while you wait for the long-term chart to finally turn. So there's nothing wrong with going in early, but realize that it's a little more risky, especially when the momentum is still heading down on the weekly chart and you have an active P pyramid. So it's a more riskier chart. We haven't really concluded the move down is done yet. And so this one, all right, you got to wait for a green owl anyway on the daily, but I kind of like Citibank better. All right. But that's just me. All right. So let's go. John, how are you? Costco, C-O-S-T. I think we'll all be at Costco this weekend. All right. Getting food for Memorial Day. All right. So let's take a look at that. Give that a second to load. All right. So something happened on Costco over the last week or so that's really important. And that's the owl went red on the weekly chart. And all the pyramids to the long side were stopped out. Okay. So you got your profit, but now on the trend up. But now here we have a situation where it's now going into a more formal correction. And it's not over because this is red. This is red in a very big way. I think we're getting a correction up here because we got this and this bullish now. So probably I'm thinking maybe reaching an inflection point. You know, you often hear me talk about that. And basically an inflection point is you take the high, recent low, go about 50%. And that's probably where this is going to pull up. If this stays red, then chances are we're heading back down. So I don't think we have a bottom yet in Costco, but I do think we're going to see a move up to that inflection point short term. Okay, so, you know, sometimes when we get an opportunity like that, we do trade to the long side as a counter trend trade, provided that there's enough profit to the target zone. But in this case, if you just wanted to wait until it reaches there and take a short position, you could at this point. But I don't think it's coming down. All right. So there we got that. Let's see. All right. Grayson, I can always depend on you for a few. I love that. All right. How are you? All right. DOCN. DOCN. I'll bet you're bottom fishing on this baby. Okay. All right. So long position here. Okay. Okay. So if you went long here, you got to make sure your stop is at the very bottom. So you do have a green owl. That's a good thing. You do not have a red PTF. That's a good thing. Green over here. That's a good thing. Neutral, doesn't matter. Yellow PTF, you can go long and short on. So that's fine. Green PTF here is good. Momentum on the longer term chart has not shifted and you're going against a P pyramid to the downside. So you got to half the position, okay? Make that position half. And then you got to put the stop down here because this move up has been fairly straight off the bottom. Let me zoom in on this a little bit more so you can see that. You can see this move here, right straight off the bottom. So when you have a change in trend or even a correction, that first move off the bottom usually results eventually in some form of retracement. And this retracement on the first move off can be pretty drastic. It could end here or even go down to here and turn around. So you got to have that stop at the very, very bottom. And you don't have a pyramid yet. So chances are when you get that pullback, you may get a pyramid forming, and then this would be your stop at that point. So you've got to wait now for the pullback. So have that stop at the very bottom. And if you got in early, you're going to do great on this trade. Okay, so nothing wrong with giving that a shot at all. Like it. All right, DPZ. Let's write that one down as a possible one here. Also Citibank. Okay, so we got Citibank, we got DOCN because we always like to pick a winner, you know, at the end. So let's keep an eye on that one. And then our next one is DPZ for the long side. Let's see what we got cooking over there. All right. So on this one here, bullish on the 60-minute chart, but not yet turned around on the daily. We are out of a short position. So if you were short on this, you'd be out where this pyramid, the flat part of the pyramid, which represents that fractal to the upside that forms support, you'd be out by now. Okay. Now you've got it very closely going to green. So if that momentum changes to green, then you're opening yourself up for a possible long trade at that point, but it's not there yet. And the reason why you don't want to get in too early is because this may just be a brief move up and then a fallback. And so we kind of get a little bit better odds in our favor when this baby turns green. So we have no red here. That's good. And this is close to going red here. So this is a little bit risky. So definitely lower that trade size, but I would not say this is ready yet. All right, watch list for this one. That's DPC. And then finally, keys, and you're long on keys, or at least considering a long position on this one. Okay, so same thing with this one. Looks like it's turning around, but again, you're going against the flow in the weekly, and it's not quite green here. This is green. This is bullish. So if this goes green, you see, and here's a little pyramid you got up here. You could probably put your stop right under the pyramid. So there you go. Okay, so that's looking actually pretty close, but not quite, because we got to wait for that owl to turn green on that one. Cool. All right, John, Q, the Qs, Q. I'll tell you, the Qs drove me nuts when they changed it to 4 Qs many years ago. Remember that? And then they went back to 3 Qs. All right, so the Qs, of course, represent the NASDAQ. And we're coming down here. Let me get my charts all set up for you. All right, so on the weekly chart on the far left, we have a pretty strong movement down that started a little bit before the new year here. And it really has been down the entire year. This has really sold off a lot more than some of the other indexes did. However, it's not quite yet in the high probability wave 4 target zone. So it looks like it's still going down. Now, we've had all these pyramids in a row. This one was just stopped out today, looks like. So we no longer have a short trade in place if you're using the daily time frame. If you're using the weekly time frame, you'd still be short because your stop would be way up here. See how that works? So your stops need to be further away on a longer time frame to give you a chance to make it to that long-term target zone and not get stopped out on the normal day-to-day volatility, which can happen on a daily chart. So again, any long trade here, you're going to be fighting the tape, so to speak, and you have still a lot of red here. If you're going to trade this little short-term trade over here, okay, PTF is only saying higher highs to here. So you may get to the inflection point. Maybe you might get to 340. It might not be a bad short-term trade, but it's a counter trend trade at best. So I don't know what you're deciding to do on this one, but I would say possibly some more lows here. I'd wait to let the market clear up a little bit and give us a little bit further information for where it's going to go. Now, the thing here is, notice on the weekly chart over here, we're in this red area. And this red area is between 23.6 and 38.2. That's a fib retracement. So 15% of the time, wave 4s end in that red area. So that's called a failed wave 4. 70% of the time, they end in between the blue area. So, probabilities guy, and even though it's 15% probability we may have a bottom here, that's a low probability for me to take a trade. So I would kind of either make this a short-term trade based off the 60-minute chart and try to make it up to maybe 340, or just wait. All right. So I think it's a little too soon to make a good judgment on that one. All right, let's keep going here. AVTR. All right, give that a second to load. We'll see what's cooking on that. AVTR. And Grayson, this is for you. All right, so long on this one. Thank you, Grayson, for telling me what you're doing on this, because that helps me kind of help you. All right, so this one's kind of pretty good also. All right, so obviously you're looking to get in off the bottom. Now, I'm a big believer in what I call connecting the dots. And some people go, what exactly does that mean? Well, I use all the tools, and I have to have things at least in some form of sequence that makes sense for a particular trade. So one of the things I'm looking at here on the weekly chart is we've got a green PTF, but the momentum is red still. Okay, we've got an active minor pyramid here, but we did hit the target zone. You see that here? So that's a good dot to connect. This is a good dot to connect. And so it's a possibility on this chart here that we will make more highs and get to an eventual target zone above here. And if you're an Elliott wave person, this would be like a 3, a 4, and a 5 target zone, okay, up in here. So eventually we think it's going to get around 51 or 52 to about 66, right? But we got to kind of connect enough dots to see if the bottom's in before we take a trade. And so if I go to the daily chart now, I've got green here, no red here. I'm liking that, and a pyramid. Okay, so that's a lot of dots connected. Then if I go to the 60-minute chart, green here, and a pyramid. And we're breaking out of a lot of resistance there. So I like this trade. All right. So again, you're going against a very steep owl. That's the only negative dot. So that would cause me to lower my trade size by half. But I think this is one of the ones I like the best today. Okay. So AVTR for a long trade. It's an early trade. There's no guarantees, but you're getting in early enough that you can put that stop below the MP, and that will give you a best chance of success on that. All right, cool. All right, so let's see. Anything else? Anything else? Cat. Let's take a look at Cat. Caterpillar. All right, this is for Kevin. Hi, Kevin. All right, so CAT, give that a second to load. All right, kind of a messy chart, a little bit on the daily chart, a little more clarity on the weekly chart. All right, so this is kind of an interesting chart. I'm glad you brought this one up. Notice that we had a big move up back here and a pretty large owl over here. I would have anticipated that as being a 3. Then we would have had a 4 and then possibly a 5. But that is not correct at this point. And the reason for that is that this owl exceeded this one. So we use this indicator. It's a momentum indicator. You always have on wave 3 the largest amount of volume and momentum. So as long as you're looking at one of those two things, you can gauge whether you're still in 3 or in 5. Because this is higher, this is 3. Okay, so that's kind of where we're sitting at right now. So the next question is notice that, it's been going back and forth. I mean, that's been pretty volatile for almost a year now. So that's kind of an interesting situation. We see that near tops. We also see that in wedges and so forth, and maybe pennants. Do we have a pennant here? Maybe. Okay, a little pennant here. But look, it could go on another 6 months before it breaks out. But let's take a look at the lower time frame. So we've got a green PTF here saying that we may work our way up here. Interesting. And let's see what the 60-minute chart shows. Okay, so we have a green now. Notice the red went from red to green. Everybody see that over here? So this is bullish. So it looks like probably we'll go above the 240 mark. All right, but that may or may not. If it gets above here, that may go ahead and make one more high. Okay, if it breaks out here, of course. So not exactly my favorite, because also too, I wouldn't be going long here with the red owl here. So I'd probably not do this trade. I think you can find better trades. Okay. I'm not connecting enough dots on this. All right, DE for Eleanor. How are you, Eleanor? Okay, DE. You guys like this? This is fun for you? I find this a blast. I could do this all day. In fact, I do this all day. And if I'm not doing it on the longer time frames, I'm usually day trading the 1 minute time frame. All right, so let's take a look at this one. This is DE, and I don't know if you're long or short, but according to the weekly chart, we're just turning now into a bearish owl. Okay, that's bearish. This is bearish. This is bearish. We're getting a little pullback. Now, markets don't go straight down. They zigzag, and people take profits, they cover, and then, can head back in the direction. So you always get counter trend opportunities. The question is, you've got to decide if they're worth it or not. Do you want to take a counter trend trade for a small amount of profit, which is okay if you can get in early? Or do you want to just join the trend after that correction's over. And these are decisions that everybody makes a little bit independently and different based on how they like to trade. So in this case here, I'm seeing a short opportunity here. Check this out, even on the 60. So we got a target here. We've already had a move up to the inflection point. I'm liking that. I'm not going to go short until this baby turns red if I was trading this. And this is already red, so I'm liking that. So I think maybe we'll see if we get a reversal on the 60-minute and then maybe join the short party. Okay, now on the longer term chart, probably coming down into this area here around 250 maybe could be the resting zone for a pullback on this. So anyway, this possible short trade's not ready yet, okay, because you got to wait for that owl on the 60-minute to turn red. That owl has saved us many a time by paying attention to that. All right, anything else? I tell you, so far we've got 3 possibilities that we can revisit: C, DOCN, and AVTR. So we have, I think we're going to have a winner today of one of those. All right, so the market's up about 314 points. So it's already met that inflection point that we were looking at. So next week is going to be very telling in the markets. You know, statistically, we usually get a push to the upside right before major holidays. Okay, call it optimism, whatever, but that's usually the case. All right, let's review real quick and let's pick. Okay, everybody vote. I'm going to bring up C. Let's take a look at C. Let me just bring these indicators down a teeny bit so you have a little more real estate to look at. So this is Citibank on this one. And on this one here, we're looking at a long trade. And again, we're going against the owl on the weekly chart. So it has to be a half a trade size, but it's looking like possibly a good opportunity on the short-term time frames. Now, where do I think this is going? Okay, let's make that determination, because that can come into play of choosing the best opportunities. And I'm going to say right about here to here. All right, that's our target right there. So, you know, if that's the inflection point, I should say. So if it gets here, all right, and falls off, that's not a good sign. But if it keeps going, that's a good sign. And we do have a green PTF. So we may have a major bottom here. All right, so keep that in mind. So that's one. All right, that's C. Let's take a look at DOCN. There's another possibility. Give that a second to load. All right, so here's DOCN. And I think Citibank was Stewart, and I think this one was Grayson. All right, so this is a similar situation. Possible bottom in here. We don't have quite as much history on this, so it's kind of tough to tell on this one exactly looking at the weekly chart, because we've had a huge retracement. So, okay. So at the very least, let's just say it doesn't make a new all-time high, but just retraces. So that would be the target zone there, 69.59 at the very least. PTF on the weekly is saying it's going to break above 135. All right. So again, that will be an inflection point at the target zone on the daily, and not a bad place to scale out of some shares in case the thing turns south. All right, let's take a look at AVTR. AVTR. All right, so this is another one, early entry to the long side. Green PTF, we hit the target zone. So I'm kind of, for me personally, this is my favorite, I think. But what do you think? Why don't everybody vote? If you like, type in the symbol of the one you like best for today. And then we'll see what everybody says. Kind of get a clue as to what the majority of folks like out there in terms of those three. little bit of a delay here, so I'll give you a second to type in your response down there. Okay. All right. Ag is saying C, so he likes C. AVTR for Kevin. iBelt is AVTR. All right. Do another minute or so. John likes C. Okay, Citibank. And you guys can vote for yourselves. So if you suggested it, definitely do it. All right, so I think Citibank and AVTR are coming up as two of the ones that folks like the best. All right, so we'll have two winners today, C and AVTR. So there you have it. All right, Stuart's voting. I knew you'd vote for yourself, Stuart. I think that's great. I would too. Okay. DOCN, nobody's voting for that one. AVTR is my favorite out of the three. All right, cool. All right, so let's have two winners today, C and AVTR. How does that work? Great. All right, well, we'll keep track of those, and you can decide when and how you want to join those. But those look pretty good, I think, at any time, both those. Yep, white line, I think that's smart. Wait for a pyramid on DOCN, stock symbol DOCN. That's what I would do too. They're long. These are long trades. So both AVTR and Citibank would be long trades. And you want to cut the trade size in half because that owl on it measures momentum on the weekly charts is not rolled over yet. But again, it's kind of like an aircraft carrier. It's very slow to turn those weekly charts. All right, so that's it for this week. All right, so listen, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. We got 3 days off. No markets are closed on Monday. Remember those that served, and keep them in your memories, and enjoy yourself this weekend. Weather's getting nice all around the country, so that's super. We'll have this recording up a little bit later today, okay, in the YouTube area with all the, don't forget, in the recordings, what we try to do is put some of the links so you can get some of the books and stuff that you're interested in the software. But also, too, what we do is we actually create a timeline on the recording, so with the actual specific stock in the timeline. You have to go into the description and then see more. And then it has that whole list of stocks we looked at today. So you can just click on the stock and it will take you right to the place in the recording where we talked about that stock. So that's kind of a cool thing. And Stuart let us know about that. So that was a great feature to look at, Stuart. All right. Well, thank you for everybody being here. Okay. And have a great one. And we'll see you back here next Friday. Okay. Take care now. By the way, before I go, I'm just going to put the charts on the MES 1 minute time frame. So I've got 1 minute here. All right. I got 15 seconds here and 5 minutes here. So I'll leave it there with a little music. And it looks to me like we're going to make another high on the MES. We had a nice move up this morning, pull back. So probably maybe something like a 3, 4 going into 5. I would say probably before this move up is over. Let's go ahead and just see a couple things here real quick on the fib extensions. 1, 2, 3. So I think the S&P on a 1 minute time frame, long trade would be good here, and your target would be 41.5130. Okay, 41.5130. So if you wanted to take, your trade size, you take a few contracts right there and go long. We'll see how that works out. Okay, stops needs to go under here, so you make sure you put your stop under there as well. All right, so I'll leave this with the music, and we'll see you back here next week. All right, so if you love these short time frames, day trading, you'd absolutely love our day trading room. So what I did is I scalped out of 14 contracts to ensure a profit, even if we get stopped out at the sell stop at 6 below the pyramid. But I'm going to keep those 6 on and try to reach that target zone. So no matter what, we got a profitable trade. However, we're also poised to try to go for that target zone. So we're going to get a pullback here. Hopefully that pyramid stop will hold. But we're in good shape on this no matter what. All right, so this is the kind of thing we do in our day trading room. It's a great experience for those of you that like that kind of thing. You can also learn, you can apply what we do here as well on the longer time frames too. All right, so have a great week. We'll see you back here next week.